Allahu Akbar. Allahu Akbar. Allahu Akbar. Allahu Akbar. Ashhadu an la ilaha illallah. Ashhadu an la ilaha illallah. Ashhadu anna Muhammadan Rasulullah. Ashhadu anna Muhammadan Rasulullah. Hayya 'alal salah. Hayya 'alal salah. Hayya 'alal falah. Hayya 'alal falah. Allahu Akbar. Allahu Akbar. La ilaha illallah. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم والصلاة والسلام على رسول الله الكريم. All praise due to Allah, the guardian, revolver, the sustainer of all the systems of knowledge. We turn to Allah, begging for His aid and His assistance, and we ask Him to guide us on the straight path. He is the master of the day of judgment, also known as the master, the Maliki Yom Ad-Din. He's the master of the day of religion. Nothing is worshipped but Allah. Nothing deserves worship except Allah. And He has no partners or no associates in His rule. So today, I wanted to share a few words on the topic of how Islam is the force that is necessary to be the change in the world that we need. And there was a title of a lecture that was given years ago that my father said he heard this lecture by Imam Muhammad years ago before I was born. And the name of the title of that lecture was Remake the World. He said after he heard that Khutbah that he knew that this is where he was going to be for the rest of his life. And he changed his life that day. And he said it was not his intent to be there that day of that lecture. So I spent 10 years trying to find that lecture. And I heard it and I understood why he became Muslim that day, officially. So I'm keeping that in focus as I'm a visitor back to Atlanta. I came from Dubai. I've been living there for the last 10 years. So that's the United Arab Emirates, right next door to Saudi Arabia. So my brother Dawood invited me to share some words to the community. Alhamdulillah. And so that's in my mind, how to remake the world. And what is important, why is that such an important goal for the Muslim? And it really should be for every religious faith base. It should be having that as a goal in mind. If you have something in your mind that you want to use to help your community, that's great. We want that. But what's bigger than the aspiration to remake the world. Now that's a good, huge idea or concept. And so the word make, I'm thinking things that go into that idea to remake the world, because the world has already been made. But who's responsible for making the world as it is? And who's responsible for establishing the authority, establishing the way that we consider life, our way of life? Who's responsible for the errors that we see in the world? And so we're going to talk about that a little bit. And in doing that, I wanted to start with some things that I think are really important. So we're going to talk about our creation. Our creation, how we were created, and what was it that caused us to get off track? If we got off track, how did we get off track? And in Islam, we say that Allah created everything. There's an old saying, they say, He's got the whole world in His hands. Mm-hmm. Now, somebody with a elementary school mind, they might be having imagining a human being with the globe in their hands. But we have to be more intelligent than that. When Allah says the whole world is in His hands, He's saying that His authority is on the earth or on the world. His authority. So His hands represent controls. So your hands are controls. And then you've heard people say manipulate. To manipulate something means that you have control on something, or you're manipulating something. And in Spanish, they use the word manual, or manos, meaning the hand. So the word manipulate is you have a hand on something that you shouldn't have a hand on. And so in going to that topic, remaking the world, I'm going to take a step back and talk about our existence. It was said that religion in itself was the first entity or community that attempted to describe our creation, the myth of our creation and how we came into existence. Religion was the first to come with this. So there were stories about how we came into existence, but who can say, I was there, I remember I saw this and that, and this is how it happened? No. So religion gives a story of the creation of man and woman. And so when we look at that story of creation, we should be taking that into consideration when we're discussing how was the world made. And what does it mean by remake the world, and who are we in this equation? And then I think about bringing it more up to date, more contemporary. How did we, as most of the audience here is African American, how did we get here? And what is it that brought us here? And what are we going to need to do to improve our condition? And in order to really fix our condition, we're going to have to go all the way down to the root. Mm-hmm. And going down to the root, meaning the beginning, the genesis of our existence here, but then also knowing that we existed before we got here. But it's important to know what happened during that transition. And so I wrote a few things on the paper just to keep me along the way. But recently I was doing some research watching the story about Roots, and how Roots, the movie, started with Alex Haley. And he was sharing how he was inspired to write the book Roots. But to my surprise, my mother told me that it wasn't really discussed. The topic of slavery was not really discussed before that movie came out. In fact, it was taboo to talk about it. So, don't you start talking about that movie, that what happened in those days, because you know what's going to happen if you do that. So just even talking about what happened during that time period was taboo, and it was dangerous to talk about what happened during that whole transition. So one thing I wanted to point out is the word Kunta, Kinte. Kunta Kinte, I was watching a documentary on roots, and he mentioned that, Ali said he mentioned in this documentary on YouTube, he said that there was something happened when he was transformed from Kunta Kinte to Toby. Because everybody's seen that scene where he is transformed from Kunta Kinte to Toby, right? And it was a very touching scene. And he said something magical happened while they were filming that scene. He said that when they were filming the scene, the main actor, Lou Gossett Jr., he wasn't given any words to say or any script for that line. But at that moment, everybody on the set was so involved and so engrossed, they actually felt that they were there at the time. And then he, at the end, he says, in response to, after he's whipped and they broke Kunta Kinte, he said, man, why you worried about what he called you anyway? Don't be worried about that name. Don't worry about that name. That name ain't nothing for you. And so I'm paraphrasing what he was saying. He was telling them, don't worry about that name. But as I was looking at that name, I said, you know what? I want to go research that name. So as I went to go research the name, what did I find? I looked up, I said, sounds like it's Arabic, so let me look up the Arabic. So I looked at the Arabic, and the word kunta in Arabic is a phrase they say it's a verb to be. And the verb to be means that it says that you were, and then kinte, they said it means that you have become. You were, and then you became. So what was he before, and what did he become? And I was wondering if the author decided to put it in the book like this, or this was something that happened by accident. And then sometimes Allah will do something in some people's writing, and they didn't know that Allah moved them to write that. But when I read that, it really stuck out in my mind. We were, and now we've become. We were, now we have become. So what he's saying is that name in itself is a message of your roots. It gives a suggestion that you were something before this, but now you're something new. So, and I remember there was a lecture Imam Muhammad gave. He said, entitled, it was in New York, in Harlem. One of his last speeches, he talked. It was entitled "New Africa." He said that we have to have a new Africa, and he compared it to how there was an old York before there was a New York. So they have an old York, New York. They have an old Connecticut, New Connecticut. Old Hampshire, I think I'm saying it right, New Hampshire. And it keeps going. Old Jersey, New Jersey. So if they can have an old Jersey and a New Jersey, why can't we have a new Africa? So he said we need a new Africa in this land. This new land that we are, we need a new Africa. And so I'm keeping an eye on studying the word or the name Kunta Kinte. And so as I'm studying it, Kunta is a verb to be. And I was like, word, that a verb to be. Kunta Kinte, a verb to be. We were, we are, we've become. And as I kept saying it to myself, it hit me. That the name Kunta Kinte was a verb to be. I'll say it again. Kunta Kinte, translated, is a verb to be. Toby. He was whipping him to become what? He said, your name ain't Kunta Kinte, is what? It's Toby. So he was beating him to make him Toby. But little did he know that even Allah was in the mix. That he was beating him to become New Africa. And I'm not giving him credit, the guy whipping him, I'm not giving him credit for this. So don't get me confused, please. But Allah was with us in that process that we were being whipped out of Kunta Kinte into verb to be. We have become New Africa. That experience created a whole new people with a whole new mind. We don't have the same taste of food that we had when we were back in the old country. We don't have the same vision. We don't have the same thought process. We have a new mind. So with a new mind, you have to have a new a new thought pattern, a new existence, and a new future moving forward. And so, Kunta Kinte shows that we are the verb to be. And the verb means something that's in action, something that's operating. It's not sitting stagnant. It's doing something. And it's to be. It's what we are to become. So, moving along, I was reading in Quran Surah, the surah entitled the Fig, Teeny. There's a verse that says, Laqad kana, let me see, Laqad, for indeed, you are the best, fi ahsani taqweem. Fi ahsani taqweem. So Allah says you were created in the best of molds, the best of shapes. So your creation is the best of shapes. So what does this mean that when you say that you have been created in the best of shapes? And now, there are other creations on earth that have shapes. In fact, there's, you have the shape of the cat, the dog, the tree. But what is it to say that your shape is better than the cat, the dog, the tree, the lion? What about the elephant? Allah created us to be in the best shapes. Fi ahsani taqweem. So if he says you are the best of creation, then that's something to think about. So Allah's telling us that we are better than the dog, better than the cat, better than the fly, better than the tiger. And I got all these guys, they have mascots for their school. They say, oh man, we're going to be the Tigers, man. We're going to be the Tigers. And they think that's an exciting accomplishment or celebration. One guy said, man, you think you bad? I'm like the Black Panther. And so he named certain, everybody has an animal that they want to be like. But if they understood what Allah is telling them in this verse, all the animals and all the creations should be looking at you and saying, I want to be like him. I want to be the human being. And in fact, the word human being, the Imam said that if you take the word human being and you put the word Muslim in place of human being in the Quran, or vice versa, every place where you see the word Muslim, you can put the word human being interchangeably. And he said, in fact, he thinks Muslim was a better term than human being. To replace human being, he said that he thinks that the word Muslim was an attempt to correct, to impose a better projection or a better idea for you than human being. Well, hey, I ain't Muslim. I don't know about being Muslim. That's what somebody might say. In fact, I know some people that recently said, no, I ain't Muslim. I'm this. But you're not Muslim, what? That's like telling me that you're not human. Or do you want peace? No, I don't want no peace. Let me ask you again. Do you like peace? Do you like it when people treat you nice or treat you bad? I like when people treat me nice. Okay, you're Muslim. But no, I'm Christian. Like, oh, you Christian? Okay, where did Jesus come from? Jerusalem. What do you hear in that name? Jerusalem. 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 And when he greeted you, when he greeted his companions, how did he greet them? Did he greet them with, hey, what's up, my man? How you doing? No, he greeted them with salam. Salam alaikum. And how did he pray? You didn't know that Jesus prayed? Yeah, Jesus prayed. He was asking Allah for several things. He always would pray and turn to Allah. He was very spiritual. And so he's asking Allah for guidance. He's asking Allah for protection. And then he's being guided. Allah is giving him guidance. And Allah says, there's a verse in the Quran that says, who is better to command than the one who created? And in fact, revelation in Islam, it starts with Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. He said he's being taught Iqra. Iqra bismi rabbika alladhi khalaq. And the Imam said, I'll translate, he says, read. And he said, but I can't read. And he says, again, read. He said, but I can't read. He said, read the name of your Lord who created. Why did he say the name of the Lord who created? Was there a Lord that did not create? Was there a Lord that did not create? So Allah is saying, read in the name of your Lord who created you from what? From a drop of sperm or semen or drop of blood, congealed blood. We don't say the word alaq, min alaq. So when you say alaq, it was translated as a blood clot. But we found that a blood clot means that something's wrong in the body. So a better translation than that is to say blood adherent. Blood adherent. And in fact, there's another verse that says that our creation, we are created from water also. And something I discovered looking and studying water is when you drop water on a table, the water it goes down really fast and it falls on the table. But after it's there for less than a second, it comes back up. And I said, I saw that. I said, wait a minute, am my eyes, mistaken? So I did it again. I took a medicine dropper of water and see the water go down. It goes all the way down flat and then it comes back up. So it comes to the floor. And I know some of you like the superhero movies, right? And you see the superhero, he's coming, he flies down, and after he falls, he goes to the ground. This is new stance that they take. They go to the ground, but they come back up like really quick. You've seen it, right? They come, like Superman comes, and he comes to the ground, and he comes back up like this. So water is doing that. Water is doing that, and that water is representing what's in you. Allah said you are asmi taqweem. So you are rising up, standing up. You want to be a staqim. A staqim is the position in prayer, or qiyam. This position in prayer, it's a symbol of what's happening on the day of judgment. You're going to be standing with everyone on earth for all times in qiyam. And in that position, in the old days they didn't have television, but they did have like a theater. Or they had stories to describe life, and they had other stories to describe how we should be treating each other in life and so forth. But this one is an image or a theater of humanity coming together, and it's known as Yom ad-Din. But the Imam, he said that one understanding is the day of Yom al-Qiyamah, is the day of standing. But there's also known as the Yom ad-Din. Yom ad-Din has been translated as the day of judgment, which it is, the day of judgment. But the word Din directly doesn't mean judgment. What is Din? It's the day of religion. The day of religion. So the day of religion, when you have the day of religion, you also have the day of judgment. And if this isn't the day of religion, I don't know what is. We have all the religions that we have representing themselves on the earth, all together coming to this big stage, this huge stage that we have called life. We have each other at this big stage. Now we're having a big conversation about who is God? Where is He? What did He do for me? Some people, they say that in ignorance, not knowing the blessing that they have. But Allah has a way of teaching, and Allah is the best of teachers. Because some of us, we're looking for a teacher to teach us, but we might miss the biggest teacher and the best teacher. And who's the best teacher? Allah. So Allah teaching us, we're in Allah's classroom at all times. The question is, are we paying attention? And I ask Allah to forgive myself for the days I wasn't paying attention in that class. I might have been playing a video game. I might have been hanging out with my friends on the corner. I might have been playing basketball a little bit too long. Or whatever I was doing, but we need to get back in class. And Allah says that there's many of us that we miss. There's lessons that we miss because we were unheedful. But Allah always is teaching us, and He always has a classroom right in front of us. And we don't even have to look at the television. We have something better than the TV. And I was going to get to that. The idea of the artificial intelligence. This new thing called artificial intelligence. You know, it's new for many of us, the young people. We're thinking it's something new. But I found out on on YouTube, I watched a video that was the man was talking back in January 1977, the day I was born, and he was talking about artificial intelligence back then. I said, wait a minute, how did I miss that? Artificial intelligence. So that means that there's someone who's injecting an idea in our mind to make us think that we have intelligence when we're not really being intelligent. And I just recently, I'm going to share something. As a teacher, I had a student who was in a fight with another student. He was bullying the other guy. And after these are Muslims in Dubai. After he got into the fight was broken up. And I asked the guy, you know, why did you attack him? What was going on? What did he do to you? He said, oh, he didn't want to talk. He's really upset. He walks away. And I told one of my coworkers who's his homeroom teacher. 5 minutes passed. He comes back with an apology letter. A 2-page apology letter. And he says, I apologize, my dear kind professor. I apologize for my mistake. I wish I did not do that, blah, 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 blah. And I'm looking at him, I'm like, man, he has really good handwriting. He did this in 5 minutes? And I looked at the teacher, I said, wait a minute, man. You trying to bring me this artificial intelligence? I know you did not do a G-chat apology. So we have people who are relying on G-chat apologies, and they think they're going to pass that over on me. I said, no, I need a real one. It doesn't have to be 2 pages. I would rather have a 1-page real apology than a 20-page AI apology that you get me in 2 seconds. And he should have delayed the time that he's going to give me the apology, because I know I'm looking at the clock. Now, if he would have given it to me after 2 days, I would say, man, at least he took the time to really think about this. He really felt bad. So we have artificial intelligence trying to weed his way into real time with real people and with real lives and with real hearts. We can't rely on artificial intelligence to get us to the next level. There's some people who, when they found out I was living in Dubai, they were so excited. They said, oh man, so what's the newest Arabic you got? Man, give me some Arabic. So they would look, they wanted to hear the newest word, fresh off the press. I said, well, you know, actually I was invited to teach over there, but one of my hidden goals was to learn Arabic over there. But to my surprise, they wanted me to teach them English. I'm like, man, I'm over here trying to learn the Arabic. And so I came to find out that what you're looking for is not always what you're going to receive. And Allah is the best of planners. And so I went over there teaching one thing. I'm going to teach biology. But then I come to find out, they said, man, you talked about the fly, you talked about the dog, you talked about creationism. Man, this is a Khutbah. And I said, well, I mean, no, this is not a Khutbah, this is how it's supposed to be. You're supposed to be learning this way. In fact, they stole all that from the Quran. They stole everything. I said, name a chapter in the biology book. And they started pointing out. I was like, yep, so this is the verse right here that it came from. He said, what about this one? That came from the Quran also. He said, well, they don't talk about this. I'm like, look, and I'm showing them all the verses. They came directly from a verse in the Quran. But many of them, they say, you know what? I don't like this biology. I don't like that dunya stuff. I want to study Quran. But see, you don't know what you've been looking at. You've been missing it the whole time. I said, you haven't been looking at your own creation. So Allah tells us to look at our own creation. And one of the things that I mentioned is looking at a dog. Looking at a dog in itself. The way the dog is shaped, Allah mentions the dog in Quran. Many places, but one place he says that the one who disbelieves is like a dog who lolls out his tongue. And whether you treat him good or you treat him bad, he still lolls out his tongue. And the one who disbelieves, Allah talks about them in different places, but he uses the dog as a reference in this one. There's another one, another verse I want to point to that, well actually let me back up. There's a a situation I saw on the bus stop. I mean, not the bus stop, at the stoplight. At the stoplight, I saw this homeless gentleman. He's a European homeless man, but he was at the stoplight saying, "We'll work for food," and he had the sign up. And I saw him. He had the long hair, and I was like, "Man, he looks just like that picture that they put up in a lot of these places." But you know, I'm not going to have time to really have a conversation with him to try to help him or change the situation. He's far away. I'm not going to jump out my car to go and help and save him. But he needs some saving. But I was like, man, he looks just like that picture that they have on the wall. They call him Jesus, but I know that's not Jesus. But he looks just like the guy. He had the long hair, and he looked like he was leaning over and needing some help, and he had a sign. But not only did he have the sign, he had a leash and a dog. He had a dog with him. And I'm waiting at the light, and I can't help but look at him. I was like, man, I've never seen that growing up. I've never seen a white guy in a black neighborhood begging for food. It must be really bad here. I need to get out of here as soon as I can. But I said, no, let me look at it a little deeper. So I'm standing at that light maybe 5 minutes looking at him. Like, man, does that dog know that his owner is homeless? And I'm thinking and looking at the dog through the window like, man, dog, free yourself. Free yourself, you can get away. I'm thinking of ways to try to inspire the dog. But I said, wait a minute, that's just like some people in my family. It's like some people in my neighborhood. It's like people all over the world, they thinking that guy is going to come to save them. And they're waiting. And that dog, he didn't know any different. He didn't understand my sentiment. I was behind the window looking at him. But guess what he was doing? He's blowing out his tongue. And what does the tongue represent? Your appetites. Your appetite is usually what they use to catch all the animals in the animal kingdom. The one thing they use to catch them is your appetite. They use the word appetite not only for what's on the dinner table. The appetite is also a term in psychology. And some of you are students of psychology, you know what it means by appetite. So if you want to catch a rabbit, what do? You put some food out. You want to catch a dog, you put some food out. You want to catch an eagle. You name it, the animals, they are slaves to their appetite. But what about the human being? Is a human being a slave to his appetite? He shouldn't. He shouldn't be. That's why we have a holiday. Our holiday is Ramadan, and what's the other? Eid al-Fitr comes after Ramadan, and what comes after the Hajj? Eid al-Adha. So we have two holidays that are both designed to free you from being caught in that same predicament as that dog. So we don't find ourselves under the rule of somebody not qualified. We don't be under the rule of somebody who doesn't understand or respect our humanity. Somebody who doesn't understand or respect our intellect. Some people, they fall into the trap. As I was driving here, I saw guys at the corner, they got their card, it says they got a free pass that says you're allowed to smoke all you want. And they said, oh man, woo-wee, I got a free pass. They said I can smoke all the weed I want. So now I see people at the corner, they used to have cigarettes, but now they up the ante to marijuana. And the ones who were smoking marijuana, I think they upped the ante to fentanyl. And so I've noticed that there's been a maybe 4-time increase. I've never in my life seen an Asian person on the street begging for food in a black neighborhood until this last 2 weeks. I saw an Asian person. I'm like, what? Oh man, they even got the Asians out here? Now usually the Asians, they have so much respect for each other and themselves that they look out for their brethren and their sisters, and they make sure that they're not out there on the corner. But this is the first time in my life that I saw an Asian woman knocking on my window. And you can tell she's Chinese, but she's on fentanyl or something. I'm like, man, it looks like she also might be in the same predicament as that dog. But the thing is that in this case, that leash is invisible. There's an invisible leash. Well, some people, they put it, now there's a whole group of people I'm not going to talk about, they put the leash on themselves. And in fact, I had a dog once. I had a dog years ago. I had him briefly, and he was a big Doberman. And when I'm walking down the street, all the dogs in the neighborhood who are on the left and on the right, they're barking. So I'm like, oh man, he's with me. But then he wanted to, I said, you know what, we might need to pick up the pace. So I jogged a little bit. But as I jogged, the leash got loose. I was like, oh man, he got loose. And I only had him for 2 days. But you know what I thought the dog was going to run away and get his freedom. You know what he did? He came back and leaned towards me like this. He asked me to put the leash back on. And it happened 3 times. I was like, wow, this is something else. And it reminded me of the book by Carter G. Woodson, Miseducation of the Negro. Miseducation of the Negro, it talks about how they enslaved our minds, and they enslaved it so bad that they could take away the leash. And we keep coming back. Like, I'm right here, boss, I'm right here. Like, but I told you that it was Juneteenth, you free. But no, I have to come back. I was out there for 2 whole days. I'm back messing. And so, Miseducation of the Negro is a book that I suggest we all read for homework, to understand our plight as African Americans. But also, he starts the first 2 chapters talking about religion, and how in that time period, many of our families, African Americans coming straight out of slavery, we sent our children overseas to study. And when they went overseas to study, they were supposed to be getting back some education to help benefit the grandma and mama who just came off the plantation and who got free and who they're tired of that leash on their neck. But instead, they came back with the mind of they're bringing back and celebrating people that look like the master. Yeah, that's what they were doing. They were coming back talking about Cicero and Homer and Shakespeare and you name it. All of the great European scholars, they were coming back celebrating them without taking respect or respecting the creation that Allah put them in. And when you understand this, then you really, really are closer to understanding Allah. And I'm going to bring this first part to a close. So Allah says that our creation is the best of creation. We are the best of creation. Not because we wear the best clothes, not because we can speak a little bit more Arabic than the other guy. We are the best creation in our ability to think, our ability to reason, our ability to rise up over all the other creations in the universe. Allah gave us this gift that He didn't give to any other creation. No other creation can do this. So, in closing, the first portion, we ask Allah to help us remember that our creation is a reminder for us to be the best that we can be and to rise up above the level of those who are still operating on the low status. And in that verse it says, you are the ahsani taqweem, and this is thumma radadnahu asfala safini. And then there are some, again, who turn to the lowest of the low. So you can be, Allah can create you to be the ahsani taqweem, the highest level of intellect, but if you're not using your mind, you're not using your gifts, you're not reflecting on Allah, Allah says the best reflecting the best thinking, dhikrullahu akbar. The best thinking is thinking and reflecting on Allah. When you think about Allah, that is the best thinking. And then you are qualified to be the ahsani taqweem.
get the value and shit knowledge and get some of that.
Okay, so I wrote some notes here on the paper, but I know that when you have the spirit, sometimes you don't follow your notes. So in fact, I was thinking maybe write 10 things down and just break just 10 words.